Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I were aspiring writers with one simple problem. We never actually took the time to sit down and write.
Exactly. So to solve this issue, we're issuing a challenge. Each week you sit down and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read a story, we talk about what we learned in reading it, and then we talk about the rest of the stories sent in by you wonderful listeners.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A doof
media production.
I just decided to say doof media. We are a doof media, I would say.
Yeah, one of many doofs.
One aspect of the many-faced doof god.
Yeah, one a quadrant.
Hey, did you know that we're working on merch? Like, we're gonna have, like, some good, cool merch soon?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Where could I get this?
You can't yet, because we're working on it. But there's gonna be a bunch of different things. We'll be able to get, sweatshirts with all of the logos on it. And now, hey, Jarvis, now we actually have a good logo. So, I'll actually want to wear one of those.
Yeah, I would love to wear a do the right thing hoodie.
Yeah. Or another hoodie with like all of the logos like in a big square on the back. You know what I mean? Like a grid of them. Or I need to run this by the people on the network that are taking charge of this. But what if we just got all of the logos, okay? And we just superimpose them on each other to make one uber doof logo, right? That combined all the best traits from each one. So like it's like an ink splatter, but inside the ink splatter it says doof, right? And then there's 3 characters. A kingslinger on it as well, a door. And then there's also I don't remember most of our logos.
There's a worm on it.
There's a worm on it, a bug being pulled apart inside the ink splatter. And it is the one that is saying doof. And
there's a pact.
There's a pact, a dice, and then there is a little speech bubble from the bug who's being pulled apart, right? And it says, what you say on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can see that as like a sort of avant-garde art piece.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Actually, you know what? That gives me an idea for a new podcast. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Maybe I shouldn't include this because this is kind of, I feel like this is too intense just to be released to the public. But what if we got all of the recordings of our first episodes, right, of all the podcasts on the network, and then we just played them all at the same time to create the Uber Doof podcast. I mean, imagine how much more efficient that would be to listen to all of the Doof podcasts. You could just listen to one episode and you'd be listening to 7 podcasts at the same time.
And yeah, we would basically edit it to where everything lines up, and so it's just the next person talking after the other.
Right.
There will be like 5 different conversations going on, but I think most people can parse it out.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're just like in a room in like a crowded restaurant, and you're just listening in to every conversation around you at the same time. In fact, maybe we could program it so like people could like plug it into their surround sound systems. And so, like, each individual speaker would just be, like, a different conversation, like, at a different table. We'd also add some ambiance for cafe noises, I think, and then we could call it, like, Doof Cafe or something. I think we should pursue this. I don't think it's been done before, and I don't know why, but...
I don't know either.
Yeah, I feel like it's...
Either way, this'll definitely help people to be a lot less lonely.
Exactly, because they'll be surrounded by a whole group of all their favorite people. Which is us. That's us. We're the favorite people.
Yeah. 1 favorite, 2 favorite, 3 favorite, 4.
Yep. Was that a Dr. Seuss thing, or were we just counting? Were you just...
That was kind of a Dr. Seuss thing. I was gonna try and, like, rhyme more. But then I was like, oof, I'm not good at rhyming, so I stopped.
Okay, well, let's get into the main portion of today's episode, which I believe is we're talking about a story of yours, actually. So
yeah, this I'm gonna bring you another one of a story that I wrote for one of my classes. This one is shorter. It is a 1-sentence essay. So Yeah, it was a really hard time really crafting this one, making it all flow within one sentence without while also giving meaning to it. So yeah, I'm just eager to see how this turns out and how y'all feel about it.
So I noticed the note at the top that says that you are imitating the style of a particular artist and one of their pieces. Could you tell me a little bit about who that artist is and what kind of writing that you were taking guidance from?
Oh yeah, so this was a imitation of the CD Corner by Kimberly Garza, which was just one of the various authors that we've read in the class, and she's pretty good. She does a really great job of mixing in the physical with the emotional really, really well. And I know with that one, I think it was talking about addiction, which I think was a really good topic for the one sentence essay. But I think that this story specifically was trying to capture the anxiety you would get from just having these vices, but while also having everything else in your life happening all at one time. So I was definitely trying to capture that sort of quick and fast-paced feeling throughout this, which I don't know if I did it, but hopefully it's something. It's something.
Yeah, and we'll get into what that something is. The last thing I want to talk about before we get into it. So it looks like for this assignment, you also had to use a certain number of craft elements. And then that's the first one, which I don't know what it is. Polysynethon, and that's poly with two L's, and then synoten, Sinoton. I don't know what that is.
So basically, it is repetition of something throughout that typically happens in the beginning and the end. So it's sort of like a echo, but it is perfectly mimicked within form and fashion.
Okay.
So yeah, that basically with that session, we just have to list out every sort of craft element that we used. And yeah, that was definitely the first one that I set out to do because I do like it, especially within these personal essays, when you do repeat certain things to not only come up with flow and a tone, but also to add more importance on that thing that is being repeated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, let's get into the reading.
Sure. This is A Southern Suburb. The worst high school in Pflugerville, Texas, appropriately named Pflugerville High, was far more homey and somber than its Alcatraz-esque 60 days in exterior paint job of chalky white bricks, high ceilings, rusted staircases that led to locked doors, dying grass that clung to jeans, and a dollar store tile that smelt of water damage. But for a suburb plagued with a grungy, gothy, hipster aesthetic, the superficial kind, of course, that's more accomplished in our neighboring city of Austin. It was not about how things looked, even though looks were everything, or acted, even though you had to act a certain way to be somebody, or smelled or itched. But how they felt about their humble beginnings and childhood friends. How they fed in to the songs that defined us. And the story we tell in our wake. Everyone, from freshman to senior, the main character of their own story that has to end in glory and accolades that would give these long, hot days purpose beyond time spent. At least that's what we thought. What I thought when I was 17. We bought in on the idea that we could all be great, and spent those lonely nights dreaming about our painful youth. The heartbreaks and broken hearts, and how it was nothing more than character development that would evolve us into a force to be reckoned with. That's what one day put Pflugerville on the map for everyone to see and love and despise in the same fashion we did. Oh, how none of that happened. How most of us married off, divorced, mothered, OD'd, died, got locked up, got kicked out, ran out of money, and moved to a bigger town where no one knew our names. We're so far from what we wished we were promised.
Okay, hell yeah. So yeah, this is a very poignant and kind of slow journey through the feelings of leaving high school behind and sort of the growth is not the right word, but the changes that we go through afterwards and how they're not always for the best, and how that very, like, those relationships that we began in high school, not just with other people, with also ourselves, were temporarily constructed. I particularly like the last line here. I really focused a lot on it, actually. We're so far from what we wished we were promised. As a sort of meaning of, like, not only were we not given this, fantasy that we were, thinking about, but we weren't really told that that's what we were going to get in the first place. It's something that comes up sort of in media sometimes, but it's not really something that, I mean, a lot of the media that we use is actually trying to deal with that fact that we're not actually going to get these things. And yet we're kind of still in denial about it a lot of the times. Still wanting to be main characters and be significant. So I wanted to talk about what was the feelings and the motivation for going through this particular topic for this essay.
Yeah, so really, I really did start with that last line, because during the time I was really grappling with the fact that everything that happens in our childhood, all of our hopes and dreams for the future, are really looking through rose-tinted glasses. We are really focusing on the idealistic possibility for our life. And I found as I got older that, okay, yes, I do have hopes and I do have dreams, but just because I have those doesn't mean it's going to work out. In fact, it doesn't work out more times than it does. So for me, it was really just grappling with the fact that I am not where I want to be, and I feel that that's true with a lot of people that I grew up with. I'm thinking of some of my friends now who aren't in the place that they thought they would be in their 20s, right?
Right.
And how they would talk about it all day. It was like, yeah, by like 25, I would have a house, have a job, have a wife, yada, 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 yada. Only to sort of find out as we do get older that stuff doesn't happen. Or it does, but it doesn't happen on our own schedule.
Sure. How
things within your life happen when they happen. And that even if you do have passion and drive for something, some things cannot be forced to happen, like having your dream job, being in the dream spot, being married, having a marriage work, and certain things. So yeah, I was just really trying to focus on that, and also I was really trying to see what quick little story or whatever I could tell within a one sentence. So I feel that's why I chose this one for the most part, because I was able to really link in a good amount of description, while also really harping on the feelings and sort of musing about the false promises of our youth.
Yeah. I think it's an important thing to muse on, because this really is the time where, things, our journeys, very much start to split off and be different. Yeah. I mean, it starts really with the end of high school with like, okay, obviously there are plenty of exceptions for differences that happen earlier, but, that's the, you know, the big decision point of like whether people are going to college, whether they're going to join a workforce or go, to another kind of training school or so many other like options that it can happen, and it's just that's where our experiences start to differ. But there's a bunch of other ways where it does too, where some people get married, which is wild to me, for that early. Yeah, and sometimes that does work, and then there's other times where it doesn't, and then that's a whole different kind of difference of experience. As a bit of a tangent, something that I have thought of somewhat recently is just how like it's kind of harder to tell if people are like awkward now. I don't know if you noticed this, but like sometimes it's just harder to tell if like are we just having trouble interacting because one of us has bad social skills, or is it because we just have completely different experiences and we just don't have much to relate on, and we're just sort of coming out this with different expectations of how interactions are supposed to work, right?
Which I get that because I know, especially when we were younger, I feel that there was a huge uniformity of like what we're going through. Yeah. To where if like all else fails, you can always talk about school. Right. You can always talk about like a hobby. You know, you probably all played games or like something like that. To where everyone was seemingly not on the same page, but at least in the same book, right? Yeah. But now, you know, people's lives have sort of branched off so far to where, it is hard to relate to someone who has a kid now. Or someone who is just like super into something that they know you're not into. It's hard to find that common basis, really, because, you know, we don't have that inherent shared experience that our youth brings us, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like that's definitely something that is going through this aesthetic. I also feel like a lot of it is just the exploration of your own specific hometown of Pflugerville, your grungy, gothy, hipster country aesthetic, but only superficial.
Yes, only superficial and not as good as Austin.
I believe it. Without a diss. Hey, I also came from suburban wasteland, so it's relatable content. Suburban wasteland. Yeah. Do you ever think about how it's actually really weird here? Actually, of how
it's
like we can drive forever and it never will change, and it'll just be more gas stations and Walmarts and 35 miles per hour roads for endless.
And then, you know, people on their porches, people talking behind your back, people will smile and wave and, you know, talk to you like you were their favorite person, only to talk shit about you behind your back and to be superficial. But I think that's just a southern suburb. That's what Texas is.
It might be. For me, it's the endless factor that is something. Also, complete different tangent. I just wanted to mention. So, do you know the Vice show Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia?
No.
Okay, well, it's a show on Hulu, produced by Vice, where like a guy like does documentaries on drugs and stuff. Except it's actually pretty entertaining and kind of funny, and it's pretty well done. But in this third season, they are investigating the origins of DMT. And did you know that the guy who rediscovered DMT was a Dentonite? He published his pamphlet like talking about the toads that DMT comes from in Denton, Texas.
What?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So I'm watching this show, and then suddenly there's a bunch of aerial shots of like Denton and and like the TW2 or TWU, like the dorms, the like only skyscrapers in the entirety of the town, which are 15-story tall dorms. It was really weird.
That's crazy. Yeah. I didn't know that, but it also makes perfect sense.
It does, that a white man rediscovering a psychedelic. It very much feels very Denton. It was like an indie published pamphlet. Yes. Yeah, no, I just thought it was really neat, but that's not really relevant to this. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, I also really like the sort of the visual aesthetic that you build up with the description of Pflugerville right at the beginning, with the school, the Alcatraz-esque exterior paint job, the rusted staircases that lead to locked doors, which is a interesting thing to drop in there. Drying grass that clung to jeans and dollar store tiles that smelt of water damage. Like that's a vibe, and I get that. Just a rundown school aesthetic, and this is just where you go. One thing I always noticed going to schools, and I'm pretty sure this is a universal thing, but it's like on the first day that you walk into a school, everything's so gray, right?
Yes.
Everything's so much more gray and dull, and eventually over the course of the year you kind of get used to it, and then you do focus more on the things that are bright, like the posters or whatever. The first day you get in there, damn, they're depressing.
Yeah, well, it's because as you go there, you slowly become gray too.
Okay, yeah, that's probably one way to say it. You lose that glow that the summer gave you.
Also, it's definitely that, like, wanderlust. Like, this is new, this is great, this is fun, until it's not,
Yeah. Well, that, and also, I feel like fluorescent lights and beige walls don't really make for an encouraging color palette.
Learning in environment, yeah.
Yes. They should paint everything, they should have red lighting and bright yellow walls everywhere, constantly.
Okay, very loud, very
and actually,
avant-garde.
Everything, the wall should be covered in art and painting and graffiti by the students. They can take off the swear words and the dick drawings. Yeah. I understand that. That's fine. But
yeah, let them put up some art. That'll definitely add some soul to a school.
For sure. Everyone, the first day of school, everyone should finger paint across the school. Everyone's given a bucket of paint, and they just dip their hands in, and they just smear it over the walls however they want. I think that would be true. That would be the ideal learning environment. I think this is like a common feeling for high school, which is kind of like a sort of sad reminiscence. Like, there was good things, but also it's like kind of a lot of lost time in there. I feel like that's a sentiment that you're drawing out here.
Yeah, definitely. That even though it is fun, a huge thing is that when you do look back, and of course this could be a entirely personal thing, but it's really like, how much does it amount to? Like, how much was you being in theater really done for you beyond that moment? And I think the biggest thing with this is that when I went in, I just went in with the idea or the wish that someone through all of my schooling told me how the world really was.
Right.
How they them actually giving it to me plain and teaching us things that actually help us become better people, instead of us, reciting history and, science and yada yada, even though of course those things are important for a career, it's still the fact that no one really gave it to you plain. No one really explained what life outside of schooling really is.
Yeah, it's weird because it's this entirely artificially constructed environment that only has bare resemblances to prisons and workplaces, but not any of the portions of life outside of that. In fact, it tells you to sacrifice the portions of your life outside of that for this artificially created environment. It's funny, and there's so many specific things that they tried to prepare us for, and it just did not work at all. I remember multiple projects about hey, research a college that you might go to, and I was just I don't even know what my priorities are supposed to be. What am I supposed to be looking for when I pick a college?
Should you go to
college? Everyone thought my presentation for that assignment was a joke because I would I mean, I tried, but every college I brought up was and Matthew McConaughey went here. I don't know if that's important or something, but he did that. That's where this is the college.
That's where he went. Yeah.
The sports team, they are like a bull or something. Love sports, don't we? And I just I don't know. It's just really hard to understand. It seems like most people pick the colleges to go off of literally just off of legacy, like someone in their family went there, or they toured two places and it was the one with the slightly better impression. And it seems very arbitrary and strange, except unless if you're looking for Ivy Leagues or whatever. But other than that, no, it's strange. It's strange.
Yeah, very strange. And also, you really do get probably the exact same quality of schooling regardless of where you really go.
Pretty much, I'm sure, depending on departments and stuff. It probably varies as much within a single school as it does between schools.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But yeah. So definitely when it came to writing this piece, it was just grappling with all of that, trying to fit the form. And also during this time I was very much into musing about Pflugerville in certain aspects of it, because Pflugerville within itself is a very strange suburb, really stuck between it being conservative, it being liberal, it being grungy, it being straight-laced. It was just very much so a melting pot of everything Central Texas.
Okay.
And I just really wanted to capture that within this piece.
Did you also have students going to class on horses?
Not to class. This one guy did leave school on a horse. Yeah.
Oh God, no, that's great. Consistently or just once?
He was a country guy. Oh, just once.
Okay.
He was a country fellow that was part of our mechanics program.
That's kind of funny. I don't know. There's something ironic about that.
Yes, very. He's working on cars, and then he has a horse that's one horsepower. Yeah.
Right. Of course. No, that's really interesting. That seems just like a Central Texas thing to go from your mechanics class home on a horse. I approve. But what would you, upon a rewrite, what would you change? What do you think you learned writing this?
So I think the only thing that I would change upon a rewrite, because this one had a very strict word limit, I would have probably pushed it more. Definitely sort of adding to the middle and the beginning so that last line really does hit harder. I feel that the main point of this story was fairly set in stone. I just want to make sure on a second go that concept is fully fleshed out, to where the audience itself sort of is led to that conclusion before we even get there. And I would say one huge thing that I learned is honestly just this form of the one sentence essay, how much it can really lead the story itself and also the writer to stay in one single moment and describe 12 different things that are happening. I just really like how the one sentence story is so contained yet vast, to where it is this one moment, but you are able to describe not only the physical or the mental, but you can also go into the metaphysical. You can also go into what symbols this moment is. So I feel that there's a lot of stuff to play with within the one sentence essay.
Yeah, what do you think makes it different from just using normal punctuation?
Honestly, it's up to how it is being read, and then also flow. I found that the one sentence essay typically is read faster, but at the same time, as a writer, you have a lot of control over how people are going to read it, because any punctuation that you do put in it has even more of an impact than if you were to just put a period, right? So yeah, I would say that the form itself is really putting the concept and the story itself even further into the writer's hands, to where it feels like a more purposeful and full-bodied experience or vision from the writer.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I want to say about this story. I think, of course, it was a really great experience writing it, and hopefully it is received well.
Yeah, so if y'all have any thoughts you have on the one-sentence story, whether Jarvis is specifically or any other rendition of the format, send a comment in. But okay, let's get into the listener submitted story section.
Yes. The listener submitted story section, the best section on Do the Right Thing. So, the stories we will be reading from today are by No Goodbye and Matt Said Words. And the first story we are going to be reading from is by Matt Said Words, with part 2, Scott. Flux.
Yeah, so this is ongoing from the ghost story with Travis and Scott and the old man named Otto. Here, this one is from Scott's perspective as we leave that haunted room where Scott lost or tore his ears off, basically. And he's being dragged down the hallway into the elevator and then out to somewhere by Travis as people sort of gawk. And we just the story focuses on Scott's meandering perspective that seems muddled with the supernatural, but also just like incredible like nausea and sickness and clearly just being in a very delirious state. And I really like how it shifts from just like the very physically uncomfortable, like him vomiting inside the elevator that the second it starts moving, to more supernatural-esque or dream-like sort of feelings, like when he feels like he's falling asleep on a beach. And there's this sort of shifting imagery from him like falling to the water, and then suddenly he's like going from a standing position to lying down on sand, and there's never like a transitionary period where he goes from being in the water to standing up. It's just something that has happened. It's interesting, and I do like the dreamlike nature of this scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I love how it's a mix of trippy but also dire. I really do like a lot of the physical scenes with Travis sort of carrying him. You can really tell the worry when it comes to how Travis is sort of viewing this situation. Especially the very last line when he's saying sorry. But also I really do like how Scott is sort of dipping in and out of this like dream-like state, and it really makes me wonder like what the lasting effects of this event could be, or are these only just sort of temporary side effects for his mind being messed with by a ghost. Mm-hmm. But yeah, either way, I think that this is, of course, a really solid, I guess, part 2. And I have a feeling that this will probably keep on going, and we might get more of Scott, which I think would be a really good choice. Yeah,
I feel like this piece is a little bit directionless. Like, it feels like it is one section in a larger piece. It focuses a lot on just that disorientation. But I don't necessarily think that's like an importantly bad thing or anything, especially within the context of a longer piece, which I think this is. But yeah, it does seem like the main thing is just this exploration of this confusion and disorientation, and I think that was well done.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, all right, our last story for this week is by No Goodbye with Icon.
Mm-hmm. So this is sort of a reminiscence on the concept of a superhero like Superman. So it is from a disgruntled comics shop employee, except everyone sort of thinks that it's just because that the main character doesn't like the popularity of these new comics because they're like mainstream. But no, it's just because this icon that they once looked up to, named Luminous, used to be really like a great proponent of change and positivity and saving people, and this main character really viewed them as an important figure for like social progress. But at this point, like, they are just kind of a symbol of nationalist power. They fight alongside the military to take over these evil foreign nations. They wear the colors of the nation, and I like this bit where the main character sort of is addressing Luminous, and makes the comment that do you know that the Nazis were your emblem too? Part of their whole master race bullcrap or whatever. Whenever you do speak out for the marginalized, which I do appreciate, despite how you sound like a shadow of your former self, they think you're doing it against your will, which is so, I don't know, it feels so, that is something that happens, right? Where the right wing just takes these, otherwise progressive icons or critical icons like Captain America or whatever that are normally used to actually criticize, a lot of right-wing things, right? Captain America is often a foil to America's actions, right? Because he sort of represents the original, well, the idealistic ideals, not the reality, but those ideals of which America kind of fails to live up to. In the same way, like, the Punisher kills cops and is actually very anti-cop, but cops love him because, you know, they just like the shooting and stuff and the killing of criminals. Yeah,
because he killed the bad guy without due process.
Yeah, we love a judge, jury, and executioner. Same thing with Judge Dredd. It's the exact same thing. Like, he's basically a parody of that whole thing. They're like, actually, it's a really bad thing to be judge, jury, and executor, but they love it.
But the cops have also co-opted that, which I think is hilarious. Because, as you said, Judge Dredd is just a straight parody of what would happen if cops had free reign to do anything.
Yeah, and it doesn't turn out really well, actually. It's almost like
it's
that's
an awful world.
Yeah, a good way to perform justice. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting and good exploration of that topic. It's obviously been current for a while now. The Boys, I think, does a very similar thing, except in that one, the Superman XB, I think is what it's called, and it's just like the same character, just like with the name changed. Is just clearly just like a bad guy. Like, he's not even he's not illusioned really about it.
Yeah. Which is actually, I guess it would be the opposite of the issue within the story, because the issue within this is that this icon used to really fight for what they believed in, and then over time they have been co-opted to do other things. But in The Boys, Homelander never believed in anything that he fought for, only to start to co-opt negative things later. Yeah. So I guess it would be a converse within that sense. But yeah, on this story, I really do like this sort of musing on what is a superhero, why do we need superheroes, and just how things change over time.
Yeah, and how they are. If they don't, take actually the effort to make sure that they're being used in the right way, they will be used in wrong ways.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I just think that this, like, through reading this, you can really just understand this main character's gripe and, why they are so disgruntled with, I guess, the current state of of heroes. So yeah, I think that this is a very accomplished piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think it's time to say, if our audience wants to be like all of these wonderful writers and submit their story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
That's right. If you want to see the words as soon as they come out, as well as the announcement that this episode would be one day late on account of Thanksgiving events and your finals, then you can do that by following us on Twitter at RightThingCast and hitting that notification bell. You also would have gotten the words the second that they came out. So, yeah, you just get a notification. Well, maybe we should ping you and give you an @ and be like, hey, get in your story. I want to talk about it. I need your story. Go post it. Type a little story about a little dog, about walking a little dog and the crazy hijinks that you and this little dog get up to. That's what I want to read. Post it.
Yeah, and also if you want to support us and everything else happening in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $10 or more per month to get access to exclusive bonus content, including a latest episode of Doof Overs and the Doof Media Network's Doof After Dark.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones at this point from all the different podcasts. They're very entertaining to listen to. There's also plenty of teasers if you haven't listened to some of the bonus content shows. I know over on the Doofcast, there's been a couple episodes of Freeman Bros, one in which it was Matt and Daniel Freeman as well as Scott talking about video games, and I think mostly talking about EverQuest, which is kind of funny. Because they hate it. But they also love it, and I don't know, it was good. And also over, I think it's the same place, or at the very least, you can find everything on our YouTube channel, such as The High Ground, which is a really, really funny show to listen to. There's plenty of other ones. If you like Pale, and you like Pact, the Pale in Comparison show, by Jenny Amalia, they also have, sort of a bonus content thing with their mother also reading Pact and getting her perspectives, and that's always very, entertaining. And there's a bunch of other things. Right now, at the end of this week is the, book club, for the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So, if you, have not listened to that, you get a chance, this next Friday, December 3rd. So that'll be really cool. I'm hoping to tune in on that, even though I haven't read the book. Just sometimes it's just really nice to just be there for a conversation and see what's going on. Obviously be ready to be spoiled if you haven't read the book. But, and there's a bunch of other, things going on at all times. I also wanted to say another couple things of like, I believe Pale Reflections has just reached its 100th episode. Woo! I think they streamed it this past week, and we were just not able to get an announcement out on time. But they do live recordings on the Discord. So if you want to be present for a live recording and submit your questions and such, go to doofmedia.com/Discord.
Nice. Well, all right. I think it's high time to roll into next week's words.
Hell yeah. So what are they, Jarvis?
Yes, so next lovely, fantastic, stupendous week, the words are urge, shy, gear, and cane.
Some fun words. So an urge is the desire to do something. Usually it is short-lived and stronger than just a generic desire. So when you get close to a very high point and you're looking over the edge, you might get the urge to jump, which is a really weird feeling. You get, there's sexual urges. That's also a thing. You got any others, Jarvis?
You get a urge to purge.
Dance. Urge to purge. On Purge Night. Is that a Rick and Morty reference? Did you just reference Rick and Morty on this podcast?
No, I was referencing The Purge.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I just feel like that's the line that they would say on that one episode of Rick and Morty. But
well, probably, yeah, because that whole episode was a parody of The Purge.
Yeah, well, yeah. I Okay. The next word is shy, which is to not be very brave or outgoing, to be sort of reticent and sort of guarded, but not in a like hostile way, but in a careful way, in a way that you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to get made fun of, you don't want to embarrass yourself. That's what makes you shy. I think animals can be very shy as well, is another thing. I don't know if inanimate objects can be shy, but I would love to see it. The next word is gear, which it is the sort of toothed circle often used in clockwork devices, but in a bunch of other things too. You change gears on your bike, on your car, any sort of mechanic, which is when they switch the chain or actually I don't know what it is in a car, but for bikes it's a chain from the smaller gear where you have to pedal harder to make it go a smaller distance, but the force that you do put in does make you go a lot faster over to the larger gear where that force is distributed over a larger period of space. Yes.
Yeah. Also, gear is another word for steroids.
Is it? I did not know that.
Yeah.
You could write about Metal Gear, the video game series
Solid,
with the mechs. Yes, Solid Snake.
You can also do a steampunk story.
That's right.
Those typically involve a lot of gears.
You could kick it up into next gear, or the higher gear, which is where like something goes from a slower speed to a much higher and more intense speed in the story or situation ship. And the last one is cane, which is a stick that is used to help the elderly walk. Although you can also cane someone, which would be to hit someone with that stick.
Yeah.
Or you can eat cane sugar, which is sugar that grows in the shape of canes, basically.
Yeah. So tell me,
candy canes.
Next week, tell me though. Tell me. What 10-word story are you gonna write?
Okay, 10 words. Okay. Shy old man. Gets urge to cane nurses, parentheses, at the nursing home. Don't count those words. It's just the nurses at the nursing home. So, nurses kick it into higher gear and they cane him.
Okay.
That's under 20 words. That's something. Yeah.
That's under 20. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So all the nurses caned the old man. He did deserve it. He was fighting back. Like it was a whole like sword fight kind of thing. So with the canes.
Yeah, honestly, and I think that qualifies as self defense, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was proactive. They just knew he was gonna do it, but he was moving very slowly. So they were able to like all get armed with canes. Like they went over to the lockers where there's a bunch of canes inside all the lockers, and they took out the canes, and they sort of they whipped them around like they were batons, and they just whipped his face with them. But he like blocked, and he like dodged and rolled, but every time he rolled, he like broke some bones.
Ow.
He took out like four of the nurses with just good cane hits. One has like a puncture wound from the cane because he just poked it that hard.
Jabbed him, yeah. Ouch.
Jabbed that hard. Yeah. No, it was pretty intense. There was a hallway fight, hallway scene. One shot.
Oh yeah, like in
one single
Old Boy.
shot. Like it what?
Like in Old Boy.
Old Boy. I don't have no idea what that is.
It's a famous action movie where there is a very highly acclaimed and then also copied hallway fight scene. After this, I'm gonna send it to you. Don't worry.
Okay. Maybe we can watch it before this episode ends. We can just leave the recording on as I watch Old Boy.
Old Boy, yes.
yeah. Or at least the hallway scene. All right. What is your 2-word story?
2-word story. Okay.
You have to use all 4 words.
Got it. Chicane, hyphenated. Gear urge, also hyphenated.
Okay, could you interpret what that means to me?
Yeah. So this story is about a cane who has gained its own sentience and it has been very shy about being used since its first user died.
Of course.
But basically, this young kid has to have surgery on his right leg, so then he needs a cane. But he's also a heavy kid, so the cane has to take steroids.
Right,
so that,
gear. Has to take gear.
So that he can help this kid, because
so he can get a really beefy cane.
Yeah, exactly. Because this cane does want to be useful now. So he has a urge to get some gear and hold this kid up.
Wow, this is really heartwarming. And I think it was the right thing for you to do, to talk about this heavy kid and this cane and his little cane. Yeah. Always the right thing. Actually, you know what? I think the old man in my story was that kid. Actually,
later on in life, yes.
Yeah, he was beat to death with canes. So I think it kind of, that's his comeuppance.
Yes, for